all, let me remind something very important. This is not in the mandate of our mission to do a certification of elections. What is our mandate, what is our commitment, is to observe the elections and the whole electoral process, including the pre-electoral and the post-electoral one. That's why we deployed also long-term observers in the country. And of course, to check if the way in which elections are held and managed comply with regional and international standards. And in that regard, I think that our statement in this preliminary statement and also my words previously have been quite clear. Unfortunately, what we observed and remarked is that in many significant and fundamental aspects, those elections fell short in the respect of those regional and international standards. Of course, in 2 months, around more or less 2 months, we will also publish a final report that will analyze in detail the phases that we already observed, but also the following ones that are still pending, notably the tabulation and notably also an announcement of the results and all the post-electoral phases, eventual also legal grievance that could be also raised by the stakeholders involved. And in that capacity, in that report, we will also propose some recommendations that we will submit to the competent national authorities.
Besides being largely peaceful, the electoral campaign was severely affected by the Patriotic Act, adopted just last month, and the discussion about the private voluntary organizations bill. According to our interlocutors, these have led to a severe shrinking of democratic space, including for the exercise of freedom of expression, association and assembly, but also to this self-censorship of civil society and the media.
It was assessed positively. However, I would like to stress on the fact that unauthorized individuals, for example, members of the Forever Associate Zimbabwe, fast-tracked voters at nearly 1/5 of the polling stations we observed, potentially indicating pressure. EU-UM observers also saw flyers that were falsely informing voters of electoral boycotts by CCC, which may have confused some of them. The EU-UM noted the central role of the judiciary in the process, given the unprecedented high number of pre-election court challenges pertaining to both right to contest and the validity of the all key legal texts, some of which remain still nowadays unresolved. Many EU-UM interlocutors conveyed that the trust into the judicial system is low. Although voters were offered the choice of political alternatives, the overall inclusivity of the candidate registration remained limited. Undue registration criteria and ZEC's inconsistent and discretionary implementation, and an unreasonably high fee and ZEC's demand for US dollars cash payments created obstacles to inclusivity. For example, the registration fee for a presidential candidate was $20,000 US, while for National Assembly candidates, the fee was $1,000. 1/5 of all aspiring candidates were rejected. And these numbers, this amount of money, was a 20-fold increase compared to the previous elections. The EU-UM took also note of a low participation of women candidates. While ZEC's pre-electoral preparations went largely according to schedule, court disputes over candidate registration caused delays in ballot printing and also impacted postal voting. Nevertheless, ZEC promised repeatedly that all systems are go. This was not the case on election. Regressive legal provisions and acts of violence and intimidation resulted ultimately in a climate of fear. The violent arrest around 14 members of ZESN and the ERC on the 23rd of August adds to our grave concerns. Both organizations are respected and are credible human rights defenders and part of the global network of domestic election monitors, GNDEM. They are also exposed by the European Union. Both organizations, I would like to remind these aspects, are accredited citizen observer organization and exercise their constitutional rights. A policy statement on 24 of August said that it was for coordinating the alleged release of election results. Ultimately, the elections fell short of many regional and international standards, including key principles of equality, universality, transparency, and accountability. The election was also hampered by significant issues regarding the independence and the transparency of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, ZEC. The ZEC missed opportunities to increase public trust in the integrity of voting and to result management. The initial failure of ZEC to provide critical electoral material, notably paper ballots, which resulted in many polling stations opening with severe delays late into the night or next day, led to an increasingly tense atmosphere in some locations. This was mainly observed in urban centers like Harare or Bulawayo, but also in Manicaland. Overall, the UIM commends, however, the large number of voters who remained in queues for extensive times to exercise their right to vote. ZEC's communication regarding delays, its reason, and the actual voting hours was insufficient. UIM observers assessed the election day